Star Wars Outer Rim. Now, this is not the new piece of terrain that we've all been complaining about. Yeah! This is actually a board game.
So yeah, this is a new board game from the guys at Fantasy Flight Games, and the idea is that you're going to be playing as some of the sort of like wayward characters from the background. So guys like Lando Calrissian, Han Solo, Dr. Aphra, Boba Fett, and those kind of characters. And you're going to be out there on the Outer Rim trying to make your fortune. Each of the different characters are going to have their own sort of focused objectives. So Han Solo's might be to gain a certain amount of credits, blah, 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 blah. And they'll have their own ship as well, which will be sort of tied to them. And you'll be trying to complete these objectives to turn your character over and then complete another one, and you win the game. The big sort of premise around this is it sort of draws a little bit from games like Merchants and Marauders and Firefly, the board game, where as you're going around, encounter cards are going to be drawn for the different planets you land on, and these are going to affect your characters and sort of tell a story on the way as you're going around. It sounds pretty interesting. I'm very interested about it. I mean, Merchants and Marauders and Firefly have got a big following, and people like that kind of exploratory game, that adventure game. So hopefully Fantasy Flight Games have done something a little bit like this here. Maybe they've drawn on some of the stuff they learned from the Fallout board game as well and done something in that kind of vein too. But for anyone who wants to play like a smuggler on the Outer Rim, this seems like a pretty cool option. So.
Cool.
You love Star Wars.
I'm known to, yes.
It's not exactly doing it for me.
It's one of those ones, it depends very much on how it actually mechanically plays, because otherwise, if it's just borrowing the same sort of style as Firefly or whatever, you're just going, well, it's all that kind of thing. The nice thing I like about Star Wars is the war in the stars and the going around and picking up cargo, less so.
Yeah,
only one good bit of cargo in Star Wars, and that's Han Solo.
I'm with Jerry on this because, like, it's important. Like, what kind of rimwork are these going to be?
Yes.
As you explore the universe.
Yes.
Well, one of the, like, for example, different characters will have different aspects. So Boba Fett will be trying to do bounty hunting missions, and I know what you said. Lando Calrissian will be trying to deliver goods under the radar and that kind of thing. And there are going to be different ways, and because each of the characters has their own specific objectives, each one's going to play very differently, as will the spaceships that they use as well, like the Millennium Falcon be upgraded and all that kind of thing. So I think they're trying to draw on the fact that people potentially want to play as Han Solo.
I don't know.
So this gives them an idea to do so. But.
I look at it and I think to myself, since it's come out, I've trying to be objective. I'm looking at it. I'm going, yeah, components look great. You know, it looks interesting, but I look at Star Wars Legion and I think to myself, that's Star Wars.
Star Wars.
It's everything I want in Star Wars, and I just want more of it. But it's the thing about Star Wars.
Is this why people don't like the Han Solo movie, for example? Because it's basically a heist, and not a war.
No, because
I liked
have no problem with the heist, and there were some interesting bits in there, but it was very bland and cobbled together after they got rid of the two guys who were doing all the work.
Yeah,
the directors, and they just end up with a sort of a mishmash. So you can't really compare it that way, you know.
I think that's more of an issue. With storytelling than it is potentially with the idea of it. Like, for example, when people see games like the Old Republic, those old video games, that's not necessarily all about fighting and war.
No, it isn't.
And I think the storytelling aspect of that and the role-playing aspect is what drew people in. And that's kind of what they're trying to do here with this. They're trying to give it almost a pseudo role-playing feel where you go around
maybe the
Solo character, but
on a couple of different levels. Firstly, on the Solo movie, I sort of enjoyed it. I think what killed the Solo movie for me is we already knew what happens to Solo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It wasn't much of a mystery, and it was a part of his backstory that I never really. I've never, in all my time of being a Star Wars fan, thought I need to know the backstory of Han Solo.
It also changed Solo because, like the Greedo shooting first.
Yes.
Which is obviously nonsense. Regardless of what George says, you're a useless slug, Lucas. Shut up. Solo was a guy who would sit in a cantina, try and bullshit his way out when somebody came looking for money. When that didn't work, shoot him, chuck a credit to the barman and go, sorry for the mess, I'm away.
Yeah.
So whenever he takes the stuff and sods off at the end of A New Hope and goes, yeah, thanks, got a death mark, see yous.
Yeah.
It's been nice knowing you. Good luck with that Death Star thing. It's been awesome. That was him. That's his character. He's gone. He's looking out for number one.
And it was believable.
And the redemption of him coming back was the whole thing.
He didn't need to be redempted earlier in the story.
No.
And that's what Solo tried to do.
And that's it. Making him not all out for himself throughout the entire film is pretty much he is end of Star Wars / Empire or Jedi.
Yeah.
Solo, he's the good guy that we all know and love.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they go, oh, but he shot Woody Harrelson. You know, that was a bit mean of him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're digressing slightly.
Anyway,
Quick question.
But again, this board game, specifically about the board game, it's exploring something I think has already been explored to death in Firefly and the like.
Right.
If I was sitting down to a board game of this ilk, I know it's very different in so much as it's a 4X. I think I would rather play the Star Trek game from Gale Force 9 than...
Who are always boldly going.
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
Is this maybe a game that's just not meant for you? Would this perhaps appeal to someone who's maybe more into the expanded universe, reading all the books and stuff?
Justin, everything appeals to somebody, man.
Oh, I know, but
appeals to someone.
this is just something I'm wondering.
You know, you're absolutely right. My opinion on this doesn't count whatsoever. No, I'm only raising.
Oh,
it,
no,
man.
I know. I'm
raising
just raising that to think.
It's just
because I know someone out there who maybe loves the expanded universe.
absolutely.
Sit there and go,
I
"Warren,
love
you're an
the
idiot."
expanded universe.
All right, then.
I'm just saying.
So I've got a case study.
I'm a long
and I'm looking at going,
I'm a long
fair
time Star Wars fan, and I just find it surprising because I was the one who always thought I would love absolutely everything Star Wars.
Yeah.
And now I find myself in a position where I'm realizing, and I suppose I'm just more surprised myself, that I'm not actually loving everything Star Wars.
Okay.
To be fair, I was never much of a fan of the Star Wars lunchboxes and all of that there. But I mean, in terms of actual serious takes on Star Wars entertainment, which
you thought you would love everything.
which is now part of it. I look at the.
Did you love Caravan of Courage?
Battlefriend was better, but you know, hey ho.
I just look at it and I just wonder to myself: is it
oversaturation?
Is it an aspect of Star Wars that I want to that I
here's
feel
the thing.
compelled to
I
explore?
think Jerry's nailed it on
And
the head
one of the things we looked at whenever Disney got the license, and it was like, they're just going to keep releasing these things forever. I hope you like Star Wars because they're never ending, and I have no problem with that as long as it's worth watching.
Yeah.
And Rogue One showed that you can do a war film / special ops type of film in the Star Wars universe. The universe is not the problem. It's what they do with it. So having a heist movie, a Star Wars heist movie, if that had not been Solo, and it is essentially the film of how Han Solo got his stuff. How do he get his clothes? Where do he get his gun from? Where do you get his ship from? Where do you get his herring mate from? That is what we find out in this film. It's where he got his stuff. There was no real story behind any of that. But if they'd gone, here's a heist movie, it's got a train robbery, like Firefly, we want that all looked great. If it had been some other punter on the back there and it didn't have the baggage attached, it probably wouldn't have been as badly perceived.
I think so.
And so you've got a universe to play in, you can do whatever you want. People will like it. Maybe it's because this isn't my style of game so much, but people will go, oh, it's Star Wars and it's this round robin, collect and smuggle. Great, love that. But they've got a big universe to play in. They can go and do a 54mm skirmish game. They can go and do a war game or an RPG, or it's boundless.
I think this is why Knights of the Old Republic and stuff were so good, because you were exploring you were exploring outside of that central thing. You were exploring new stuff, new characters. And this is what I would like to see. Like, my blood runs cold at the prospect of a movie about the Mandalorian. What do you call him? Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Even a movie about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I want Disney to go elsewhere.
Expand it. Yeah. If they went, we are going to go and do Revan's story in the Old Republic.
I was a big fan of Rogue One. I thought Rogue One showed huge promise.
It was the Dirty Dozen.
What the universe could support.
The Dirty Dozen in space.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think this is where what they're doing next with this bounty hunter movie that they're coming out with. I think that's where they're going in the right direction, because everyone thought it was just going to be about the story of Boba Fett or the story of Jango Fett, but it's not. It's
I hope they're not in it.
Yeah, it's about a different guy. So I just like that idea. So it should be fun to see what they do with that.
It remains to be seen. We'll know better when we get a chance to play Outer Rim.